The colds and flu many of us suffer from each year may not be passed to us by our neighbors down the street, but rather by our neighbors in space, comets. What's more, even deadly diseases such as the plagues that devastated ancient Europe or the recent coronavirus pandemic may arrive the same way and will ravage the Earth whenever comets appear. This is the controversial thesis put forth by two eminent astronomers, Professor Nalin Chandra, a British mathematician, astronomer, and astrobiologist, and Sir Fred Hoyle, an English astronomer who formulated the theory of stellar nucleosynthesis, both of Great Britain. Hoyle and Chandra claim that the dust that fills space between the stars consists of minute living organisms formed when the solar system was born. Comets are made up of the interstellar dust mixed with ice and frozen gases. When a comet visits our solar system, some of its dust drifts into the Earth's atmosphere, where the tiny organisms, they say, multiply in our apparent compatible environment. Hoyle and Chandra cite examples of diseases they believe to have come from space. They even link them to a specific comet. Halley's Comet, for example, takes between 75 and 78 years to complete its orbit around the Sun. A worldwide outbreak of the Asian flu in 1957 followed a similar one 77 years earlier. The two men think the outbreaks were caused by piles of debris from the comet. Recently, Nalin Chandra postulated the idea that the coronavirus was inhabiting a comet, and a piece may have fallen to Earth during a short fireball event over China in October 2019. He further implied that comets carrying viruses may have caused outbreaks in the recent past. Scientists have rebuked Chandra's suggestions, saying that any such illness that might have extraterrestrial origins, and his ideas have largely been considered pseudoscience or bad science. It would be unprecedented to discover a virus could survive the radiation it would be exposed to on such a long journey through space, never mind the trip back to Earth, and still be able to infect humans after it landed. That's according to astrobiologist Graham Lau, who hosts NASA's Ask an Astrobiologist series, he told Space.com. He goes on to say, however, it would be an incredibly unique and groundbreaking finding if this were true. But he simply does not have evidence to support his claims. It's one of those cases where extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Even though it's an amazing idea, we just don't have any reason to embrace that idea right now. I think it's important for scientists to point out pseudoscience or bad science. Lau added, if that were real, it'd be great, but we just can't allow ourselves to jump to the feel-good conclusion without doing our due diligence as scientists. Chandra also asserted that SARS came from above. He even co-wrote a book with Fred Hoyle in the 1970s called Diseases from Space, and has tried for decades to prove that diseases like SARS or the flu or COVID-19 and more have come from space. The World Health Organization has declared that smallpox has been completely eradicated, but past epidemics seem to have followed definite cycles of a few hundred years. Hoyle and Chandra believe that smallpox will reappear carried by an as yet undiscovered comet that returns every few centuries. Although organisms from space may play havoc with life on Earth, they are also responsible, claim the scientists, for the very appearance of life on this planet, as well as for its continuing evolution. This theory is known as panspermia. Panspermia is the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe, distributed by space dust, meteoroids, asteroids, comets, planetoids, and also by spacecraft carrying contamination by microorganisms. Distribution may have occurred spanning galaxies, and so we may not be restricted to the limited scale of solar systems. According to the accepted view, complex molecules necessary for life appeared on the Earth when elements in the primeval soup of the early oceans reacted together. These evolved into primitive virus-like creatures. Hoyle and Chandra find it incredible that chance alone could have been responsible. Life must have come from outside our planet. To test their theory, the two astronomers studied flu outbreaks in British boarding schools. They found that flu did not spread from dormitory to dormitory, as one might think. Instead, outbreaks began randomly in different dormitories, as they might find have been caused by organisms drifting through the atmosphere. In addition, the flu epidemic in Sardinia, Italy in 1948 followed a similar pattern. Once established on Earth, according to the astronomers, an invading virus can bring about a permanent change in the genetic material of a host. This change is inherited by later generations. In this way, evolution occurs. Other astronomers disagree with this theory, however. They claim that the effects of interstellar dust on starlight are not what would be expected from clouds of minute living organisms, and epidemics do not seem to result annual meteor showers, the result of dust shed by comets, that should, according to Hoyle and Chandra, be disease-bearing. For a while, it seemed that the two astronomers were battling almost alone against the entire scientific community. But back in 1986, space probes flying close to Halley's Comet revealed that the dust that the comet gave off contained carbon and hydrogen, two elements vital to life. And the probe discovered what were probably fragments of molecules of the type produced by living things. And the core of the comet was coated with a layer of dark carbon-containing substance. Man's closest look at a comet may yet help support the theories of Hoyle and Chandra.